Outstanding.
I want to ask that profit motive question so much, but I'm going to put that on the back burner for one hot second, because inquiring minds want to know, what is it going to take to fix visitation? Whether it be visitation with family members, whether it be journalists having access to the facilities that is candid, open, and honest, or whether it's people who've been separated by incarceration from their family members and want to be able to access their children who are now in wards of DCS. What is it going to take to fix that?
Well, look, as a lawmaker, I even have problems getting in there doing visitations or doing health and welfare checks for some of these families that are asking me to do it. And also, I've done health and welfare checks on employees, believe it or not, that work out there. So we need to have a better system of folks being able to get out there and providing that transparency. And again, this all goes back to the Oversight Committee. The Oversight Committee can identify this problem and then come up with those solutions to fix the problem and take the solutions to the department and to the legislative body to either make legislation to make the change, or they do an internal change in the chain of command in the DOC to fix those problems. But it's all going to go, it all goes back to the Oversight Committee and what they're able to look at.
You know, we've had a lot of questions. Let's start with what can be done or how can we fix? And the essence of the Oversight Committee is to start answering that question with real substantive policy proposals, because that's where you go. We all know what the issues are, but again, we just don't know enough about how the department actually operates to give specific examples at this time, but absolutely can be done. And the committee will gather this information. Because particularly when it comes to visitation, you know, the federal system is much different than the state system when it comes to visitation, because there are much more detailed rules and regulations and pieces of federal legislation that deal with this issue. We're trying to get there now here in Arizona. There are bills that we passed the bill off of the floor this past session that dealt with visitation, placing people closest to their families if possible, giving them greater access to their children if possible. But this last session was just filled with challenges, and this next session is going to be filled with those set of challenges and even more. But again, the information is out there. We just need a conduit that we can use to get it focused and then use to help us as legislators. And I say us, I'm not a legislator anymore, but that can help our elected representatives and senators figure out a way to draft legislation that gets to the heart of the problem.
And I think that that's a really important point when in understanding this legislation and how that board is comprised. And there was a lot of thought and consideration, and this was something that goes back several years in comprising the board that is in this legislation. It has people from every area of expertise that the Department of Correction touches. So there's obviously lawmakers on there. We want lawmakers from both chambers and from both parties on there. So those are there. There is a directly impacted male person, a directly impacted female person, a family member of somebody that has been directly impacted. But then there's also a former Department of Corrections official or prison official that's not related or tethered to the Arizona Department of Corrections that can come in that has expertise. There is medical doctor. There's other people, experts on this panel. So it's not, so we have subject matter experts, we have personal experience experts, and we have law experts on this panel to work and look at those ideas. And again, I just want to reiterate that this isn't happening in a vacuum, right? And so what we want is we want to incorporate best practices and evidence-based operations into the Arizona Department of Corrections, and that's how this will happen. And we think that the way that we've comprised that panel lends to that and brings that level of expertise, experience, and knowledge to the legislative experience, to where we can come in with solutions that are not only holistic but that are direct and are evidence-based and best practices, and the most efficacious solutions that we can have. And that's exactly why we want to do that. You don't want, a house painter making a decision on how to repair an automobile. And that's what we were thinking when we put this panel together, is we wanted the people in place that have the best information, experience, and knowledge to bring to bear in that legislative panel that's receiving all that information from the ombudsman, to turn that around and turn that into policy and turn that around into directives as necessary to correct these issues.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of thought went into that. The person I was working with out of DC, Molly Gill, she gets a lot of discredit. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with her organization. Mm-hmm. She gets a lot of discredit because she actually drilled down on who really needs to be there. And then Representative Rodriguez, he had some great ideas to put folks in there to make sure that all aspects of the population are being represented, and we're able to answer those questions.
Indeed.
Look, this is a win-win for Arizona. If we, on the Republican side, the conservative side, if we are tired of tax dollars that are not being accounted for, just going down a dark hole, this is something that we can use to have accountability of those tax dollars, because, you know, Republicans are we're real big on that. We want to save money, which is important, because some of that money can go back into programming. It can go back to K-12 spending. It can go back into programs that are going to keep these folks out of prison. This is a win-win situation. The only folks that have something to lose on this are folks that really don't want this because they may have another agenda in line. And it's just too bad that may happen. We got to get this thing fixed. This is like the Titanic, as I said. We know how it ends. The ship goes down at the end, and everybody goes down with it. And if we don't want to be the Titanic of the penal system in the nation, we had better get serious about what we are doing here in Arizona and really fix some of these problems.